Okay, welcome everybody. Today we have a program today with AImedis and the founder and operator CEO, Mr. Michael Kaldasch. I would just ask that you please keep your microphones on mute. We have it on speaker view. So with that, I will start out here. Title of our show today, Metaverse in Medicine, Implicit Opportunities and Rising Utility. How close is it to reality? What types of advantages can it possess? So with that, welcome to the series titled Utility in Healthcare series. This is a program that series that is a part of a series that consists of four. Mr. Kaldasch, Michael Kaldasch, you're the last one here, but Metaverse is one of the biggest questions people have. It's a series meant to highlight pioneers who have taken experiential knowledge to business application. This should be in no way construed as an endorsement of these companies or advertising. These highlight use cases that are already in motion within the industry that we should all be aware of. Mr. Michael Kaldasch, as I mentioned, is the founder and CEO of AImedis, a self-described company revolutionizing how de-identified data across the globe can be exchanged and about improving healthcare service lines. Before we get into that great conversation, I'd like to inform people of the mission of blockchain in healthcare today. Blockchain in Healthcare Today is the world's first peer-reviewed journal that amplifies and disseminates blockchain and healthcare information. For distributed ledger technology and innovations in healthcare, information systems, clinical computing and networking technologies, and the biomedical sector. The preeminent gold access journal is published on a continuous basis to accelerate sharing rigorously vetted theoretical and experiential knowledge required for a growth sector, such as what we're talking about today. So here we are. You founded this company, I think, what did you say, about 3 years ago?
It was end of 2017. End of
2017. Oh, yeah. So about 5 years ago. And at that time, you were working in internal medicine and neurology for over 12 years. And I believe you had stated, from what I read, the idea was born during that time in the ER and ICU while searching for vital patient medical history. And this led to the ideation and eventual creation of what is now AImedis. Am I getting that about right with you, Michael?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
So
go ahead and elaborate on that if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, Ryan. So first of all, thank you very much for having me on the show, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about what we do. So it's correct. We, my partner Ben and me, we founded AImedis in 2017, end of 2017, both clinicians and both a long career in hospital behind us, also in the pharmaceutical space. And everyone who is a little bit in touch with healthcare knows that there are so many issues with that. There are so many problems when it comes to data exchange, when it comes to know your patient. And so we started thinking about this a very long time ago already. In 2009, when we were in university hospital, we worked together and we saw how difficult it was to get people's information. You have a patient in the ICU, you have a patient in the emergency room, maybe unconscious, and you don't know anything about that person. Maybe that person was already in that hospital, then you have the last discharge letter, but most of the time the person is completely new to you, so you don't know anything about him. We said, okay, it's not possible that there is no system at all that manages these information. I mean, even back in 2009, it was possible to do online banking, to shop, travel, to plan traveling, etc. But there was no platform to exchange medical data. And we said, okay, there must be something. And so in the clinical environment, we started with an experimental system just to see how feasible it is to tackle this medical data inside an online platform and connecting patients on the one side and doctors / hospitals on the other. And that worked out quite well, although it was a really crappy solution. It was built on PHP and it didn't look very, very good, but it worked very well and people were quite happy about it. So the idea of such an e-health system was born. And from that point on, Ben and I, we elaborated a lot on that. And yeah, that resulted in the foundation of AImedis in 2017.
Blockchain and a medical physician are really kind of an odd context or a combination. What led you to that? Just the spirit, the inability to get the information? How did you find out about blockchain's ability to help you with healthcare, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
So before we founded AImedis, we've already been in touch with blockchain technology, you know, in terms of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and that stuff. And when we founded AImedis, you know, the first thing we thought about, of course, how do we create a system that's not only secure, but also transparent, right? And there are a lot of issues when it comes to storing your data somewhere in the internet. And there are even more problems when it comes to storing medical data in the internet. You know, people don't trust you. They say, oh, okay, these guys use certifications, they have secure servers, but I don't know, is my employer getting the data? Does an insurance company have access to it? And so we said, okay, how do we solve this transparency issue? And we said the blockchain might be a very good use case for that, to give people an access to a blockchain that only they have access to with their information, to see who accesses their data. So we created that first version of a blockchain that stored only transaction IDs inside this chain. So people could access it and could see, okay, Dr. XYZ, maybe the family practitioner, had access to my records and he stored an X-ray, he stored a discharge letter, he added some new medication, but no one else accessed the information. So we added that as a transparency and trust layer, let's say it like that. No, from the beginning, we knew we don't want to store all medical data to the blockchain due to the construction of a blockchain and due to the fact that medical data is of a very big size. Let's speak about CT images or MRI images, which can have several hundred megabytes. And imagine you have 1 million patients that store their information on the blockchain. This wouldn't be the best solution you could think of, right? But storing just transaction IDs that can be associated with operations seemed like a good idea. And also from the beginning didn't collide with certain regulations. Let's speak about the European Union, where you have to apply GDPR compliance, which says you have the right to be forgotten, which is something that absolutely collides with the idea of a blockchain, because once some information is on the chain, it's basically there forever. And we said, okay, by storing anonymous transaction IDs and transaction hashes that can only be accessed by the patient, will at least not touch this issue and will not collide with existing regulations.
Very good, very good. So last time we talked, I said, what would be the advantage of doing here instead of the Centraland? And because people really are all about the Centraland, but like we discussed, it's a business to consumer kind of atmosphere. So can you tell us about what sets you apart from other metaverses? And I think this is a good time to describe what AImedis, actually the metaverse, really is.
Yeah. All right. So the idea with the metaverse was born together with the data marketplace that we created, and was always of very big interest for us. And as you say, the first idea was, of course, let's take a place in one of the existing metaverses, like Decentraland, like Sandbox, which are great products, right? There's no discussion. great products, and for what they do, they're perfect. But we quickly came to the conclusion that these systems are not supporting medical standards at all. Let's speak about HIPAA compliance. Let's speak about GDPR compliance, end-to-end encryption when it comes to communication, FHIR as a communication standard in healthcare, speaking about medical data formats like DICOM, etc., etc. So we said, okay, one of these standard metaverses will not do. And as a matter of fact, we have to create our own one, which resulted in the start of the production of Avalon back in the beginning of 2021. And my idea and Ben's idea was always, we want to have something that really looks like a AAA computer game. We didn't want that kind of, graphics that look a little bit like from the late 1990s. We wanted something that has a credible environment, right? Because when you speak about healthcare and about immersion in a virtual healthcare environment, you gotta have credible graphics. Of course, you need capable hardware for that, which up to a certain point can be a deal breaker. But we said, okay, we will not make any compromises. We want something that looks like a really cool computer game, but in combination with medical data, and of course, a healthcare economy. And that's how it was born, and that's why we did our own metaverse.
Okay. You had shown me some different perspectives on the metaverse before. Would you like to elaborate on all the axial stakeholders that can benefit from this?
Yeah.
In essence, it seems like you've created a city, quote unquote, where people of all vertical and horizontal industries can participate.
Yeah. So we didn't only create one city, we created several ones, and we will still add more cities to that. We'll come to it why we did that. So first of all, speaking about the participants, on the one side, we have the typical patient, someone who has a disease or a chronic condition whatsoever, but also their families, and of course, healthy, normal people, citizens that want to prevent diseases. That's the one side. The other side are the healthcare providers that include hospitals, of course, pharmacies, big pharma companies, universities/university hospitals, doctors, nurses. So basically everyone involved in the healthcare space. Also startups from the healthcare space. So we have spaces for startups that we offer them to elaborate on their ideas. Let's speak about AI companies that need good medical data when it comes to machine learning mechanisms, right? You can have a wonderful AI, but if the data you get is not good, the result will not be good, right?
Yeah.
And then let's also speak about companies like, I don't know, maybe like Tesla or SpaceX that produce and need medical data. Let's talk about self-driving cars. Let's talk about space. But I mean, that's quite the future, but you get the point, right? So it's all about people who are in touch at some point in their operation chain with healthcare.
Absolutely. And I think when we had spoken, I said that the perfect thing for me would be a meditation studio. And you're like, well, this is a great place to do it. And later on, after we had the conversation, I thought, that should be something that's really done in real life. And then I took it one step further and I was like, well, not everybody has the opportunity to go and meditate in the perfect place for them. So I think this would be a great place to get away and have retreats, in my opinion, but also the horizontal stakeholders and the vertical, I think, are great. So the patients, actually, let's go to AImedis has a double chain model. Basically, one's for the patients and one is for the operational data. Would you like to explain that system and how NFTs are a part of the privacy?
Yeah. So on the one hand, we use Binance Smart Chain for our token and for the non-fungible tokens, at least the non-fungible tokens that are for land. that are for medical data and that will be for medical art. And on the other side, we had up to now a private blockchain, an industry blockchain, because we wanted to store medical the transaction IDs on a chain that is separate from the net, because of, I mean, when you speak about the Ethereum blockchain, you have incredibly high transaction fees, gas fees, right, that are just inappropriate when it comes to these kind of operations, because you cannot ask people to pay $20 to, you know, mint an NFT or get some information stored. Now we have decided to go with Flow blockchain, which is a great company and a great chain with a great programming language, and that we will integrate into AImedis Avalon, and of course also into the healthcare system, into the patient and hospital system, because it has super low transaction fees that we can speak about that later. We will cover most of the time. Secondly, the programming language is a very simple and straightforward one, and the support by the team is just fantastic. So we are going for Flow blockchain. But still, we do have this dual blockchain model, Flow on the one side and Binance Smart Chain on the other. We are also speaking about building bridges between those, right? So when we have NFTs that handle the items inside Avalon, real estate, items whatsoever, will be handled by a Flow NFTs in the end, right? So we see this as a big opportunity, and yeah.
Also, so basically, if anybody doesn't understand that, after a visit or an ancillary hospital or outpatient visit, people could receive an NFT that is their full record of that event. Does it, like, if I got a chest x-ray, would I receive my chest x-ray?
Yeah, that's possible, of course. Yeah, so you can store an entire medical record. You know, we don't store the entire records always inside NFTs. We store certain things inside NFTs that are, let's say, legally critical. That's the vaccination passport. That is the organ donor passport. That are documents that maybe say how to proceed in case of severe sickness, right? So when there's no one to decide, you can make this declaration, what's going to happen in case of this and that. So these things will be stored in NFTs. And of course, it will be possible for patients to extract their data and store them into NFTs to monetize this data. Of course, people will not do that themselves, because I mean, it's obvious why not. So we are having professional institutions that are performing the NFT minting and that make the depersonalization and quality management of the data. But of course, for this, NFTs are also the vehicle.
So when you talk about doing some sort of model for making the information available for sale, or not really sale, but use and research, when people stake, those dividends perhaps can go to them if they are patients or physicians, and or other participants, and get further rewards for those studies. Like, we'll go back to the chest x-ray. If you wanted to go, maybe if you were doing chest cancer research, perhaps you could perhaps have a whole bunch of chest x-rays available, CT chest, MRI chest, whichever, for people to use and do research that is de-identified. That's the good part about NFTs and data for individuals. So that's for anybody out there who doesn't know that. So if where do you feel like the metaverse is going in healthcare? You and I both came to about the same number of office visits or ER visits that perhaps are unnecessary, that could be taken care of in this situation. I can't help but think about a lot of people who have chronic diseases or transportation problems.
Yeah, so can tell you a little bit about the use cases, the standard use cases that we start with. That is, of course, therapies, that is consultations, that is education as a very important part, that is research, right? To cooperate in research, and of course, the social part. We always wanted to build a social medical network, and we wanted to bring people together who have chronic diseases, who maybe have a condition they cannot cope with alone, who are living somewhere abroad and there is no self-help group, so they got to find a place, right? And most of the time they go to Dr. Google and they search for some groups, and you don't know, is that legit? But even if it is legit, it's still a flat internet site, right? There are some great products out there in that term, but the immersiveness and the real feeling of communicating with someone, right, is missing. And we think that the 3D environment and the metaverse is a great opportunity to bring people together and to give them the feeling of not being alone and being supported. Right. So these type use cases are the most important ones for now.
Yeah, I completely see the advantages in that. I have a friend who's epileptic, and a lot of people always ask her about support groups, and she's like, nobody can drive to them. And it's a sad thing. She's found something on Facebook, but if there were a group that can meet in some place like that, that would be fantastic, because there are so many disparate communities that do need that kind of attention. So if somebody were to go to their website, on the very first page, it talks about second land sale is available. Would you like to explain what that means for the system, and how it's just a tool for AImedis to get participants perhaps involved in the system?
Yeah. So on the one side, we of course include all the big players in healthcare, big pharma, university hospitals that take a place in that environment. On the other side, we sell some of the land inside the cities in Avalon to get on board people, blockchain related people that are interested in owning land and exploring and developing that land. So we encourage people to build their business on that. We encourage people to even make business by selling or by renting out their spaces, of course, to finance our development. So the development of such a metaverse, and it's as I said, a AAA computer game, is quite cost intensive. And we're financing everything out of our operations, of course, but of course also with the land sale that we do, right? And that's what we do, the land sale. We started with the first part of the land sale a few weeks ago, and just a small part. We just sold small parts of it, and that was very, very successful and very interesting. The resonance was very good. And now, end of August, we list the token, the AImedis token, on a big exchange on Bitmart. And shortly after that, we will start the second part of the land sale. We do have a crypto token. That is just, we are not a blockchain company that is building everything on that token and talking only about the token. The token we see, as I told you yesterday, right? It's a tool. It's a tool that gives people a lot of opportunities and improves the experience in Avalon, improves the experience in the data marketplace, and also in the medical record system. But it's not that we are solely focused on that part. So we see the blockchain, the token, but also the NFTs as vehicles and tools, as I said, for the improved usage of the system.
So would you call them, I wouldn't really say that they're value conversions, but they're more like a utility token, where I don't see them actually exchanging a chest x-ray, someone turning in an NFT for a certain amount of price and no longer having that NFT. But I don't know, maybe you have some sort of value exchange like that. in mind at a later time, because I know value conversion is a big thing right now. But that could be of a different model for you at a later time, or something that you're putting in a later time. Would you, any speech to that at all? No?
Yeah, you know, the problem with medical data is always you need to make sure that this data is legit, because lives depend on it. Sure. Decisions have to be made on facts, right? And not on promises or maybe data that is maybe legit, maybe not. So we have very severe and very strong quality control mechanisms inside this. So as I said, patients never will mint their own NFTs and sell. I mean, they could, of course, do that and sell it on OpenSea. I don't know. That's not up to us, but we don't do that because, you know, in the end, someone has to make sure this is depersonalized, de-identified data that is legit medical information and that really answers questions. That's why data is being purchased, right? People want answers on questions. And if you have something that is maybe legit or maybe not, it just doesn't work, right? So we always have to have this mechanism when it comes to data trading. It's got to be strictly B2B or even science to science, right? So there needs to be a doctor / researcher / pharma company, and on the other side the same, because otherwise there is no value in that data. There is no legitimacy in that data.
So would you say all the participants in this ecosystem, the Avalon space and the AImedis chain are kind of like the proof of authority for whatever information is created there that goes to other entities that are also credentialed and have a proof of authority of their own that can trust your information? I did notice on the webpage that it states you work with the certified, credentialed third parties. Would you like to speak to that? Is that mostly about testing? Do you offer testing too, like mail out testing? Is that something that you think somebody could offer? I guess that really wouldn't be you, but I just see several possibilities in that area.
You mean testing in terms of what kind of tests do you mean?
Well, I just saw you use certified clinical third-party applications when needed, and that was on the first page of the website. Okay. But I'm trying to. I think I know what you mean by that now, instead of specific healthcare offices. Excuse that question. So we've already kind of discussed where we feel the metaverse is going in healthcare. How much do you feel that it is going to increase implicit opportunities and perhaps reduce operational costs for larger institutions, perhaps?
Yeah, so first of all, let me underline that neither the system nor Avalon nor the data marketplace will replace any real world medical treatments, of course, right? So it's an additional offer. And I can tell you there was a research done, and it's already some years ago, and a German health insurer did that, and that showed that up to 80 to 85% of all patient contacts in emergency rooms and doctors' practices could be replaced by a digital health solution. They didn't mention the metaverse because at that time there still was no metaverse and no discussion about that, but it said it can be replaced by digital health solutions. And let's speak about digital health solutions, like, you know, the normal doctor chat with video. During COVID, these apps flourished, and now that COVID is a little bit less a topic, let's say it like that, the numbers are going down again. And why is that so? Because people are very much, you know, they like personal contact. It's always like that. You know, people, as much as we love all these digital technologies people love the personal contact, and a flat screen does not give you the immersion and the real feeling of having a direct contact. And the metaverse will give you at least a third dimension and give you a more immersive feeling of having a direct contact. And that's why we think that this will be one of these solutions to tackle these 80 to 85% of contacts that don't have to happen in real world. So it reduces, of course, the burden for hospitals and for emergency rooms, or for doctors that are already overworked and who have too many patients and too much work and too less time for patients, right? That is one of the issues. That will reduce it because people will know that there is a place in the internet where they can go to and where they can get their questions answered, where they can get certain therapies, where they can educate themselves on certain things, where they can get their medication, where they have someone to talk to, right? So it will reduce this pressure to go to a hospital maybe at 3 o'clock in the morning, or maybe wait in a waiting room at a doctor's office for 3 hours just to get a prescription or just to get a simple answer question, right? So we think this will reduce the problems for big companies and for hospitals and for everyone involved in the healthcare space, and will create more room for the things that have to be treated in the real world, and it will parallelly improve the happiness of people who are going to these solutions, because they get exactly what they need with a very low entry barrier and with a very low effort in the end.
Do you think that the market segment that seems to prefer everything digital would still even prefer going to a doctor's office? Because I believe that there's a market segment that would prefer to do mostly everything online. I love teledocs, but there are people who, even if they're in that market segment, they still would go to see a doctor for basic things that they know they could do over teledoc, do you believe? But I think with your company's vision and what it offers, it kind of bridges that gap for that marketing segment, perhaps. And and it does it in a format and in a platform that they probably like. So I know I would prefer something along these lines for very basic stuff myself. Now, we mentioned yesterday, I was going to ask you about how important it is to have creative people around you, ones that think outside the box. And do you have any lessons for finding help and perhaps a team from different backgrounds than healthcare or technology? Do you have anything to say to that at all?
I can tell you that I think, of course, it's very important to have specialists from each of the fields that are part of the project. So, of course, healthcare, gaming, blockchain, IT, development, marketing, etc. But I can tell you that we are very lucky because we have a fantastic team, and that's not only because we had the right people. The people are just great, right? They share the same vision, and they work very very motivated, and then I'm very thankful for that, because when you have a vision of something, up to a certain point you can do a lot of things on your own, but then there's a red line that you will not cross, and where you need help, and we just have a fantastic team. That is all I can say, and I'm very grateful and happy to have them.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think it's important to have a diversified community around you. Homogeneity or having all the same type of people around you, you get trapped into a certain mindset that's hard to escape. What makes you, how do you think that augmented reality can fit into this kind of market? It's not exactly the same segment, but someone staying at home and being able to do some kind of hollow emitter? Or what about an avatar leaving your space to go into the real world? There are certainly people who have tried to do applications like that.
Yeah.
I've seen. Yeah, so maybe you have something to say to that.
Yeah, I mean, augmented reality is also part of our vision.
Okay.
And I think in the end, the metaverse is not only something that you experience in VR, it's something that you experience in mixed reality, a combination of the real world and the virtual space. Let's talk about AR in hospitals, for example. You can use, and we've discussed this with some of our partners, that you integrate something like augmented reality navigation when you go through a hospital. Maybe you go to a big hospital and you want to go to the radiologist office. Where do you find it? Yeah, you can follow augmented reality arrows that lead you to where you need to go, or it explains certain things when you enter, for example, the CT room or the MRI room, and explains to the machine. So I think this will be a very important part. Also, when it comes to education, surgical training, right? I saw some very cool projects that use augmented reality to train professionals how to cut, how to sew, how to do these things. That is very important. And this will be, of course, part of the metaverse. So I see this very, very positive, and definitely see it as a part of Avalon too.
I also see something along these lines being something that could literally plug into an enterprise somewhere if they wanted to, or maybe along the lines of a hospital system could, that there's no way that they could come up with something like this themselves, incorporating that into there, or even big players too. The space is definitely going in that direction, and I think there's increasing utility. Have you done any research about the data transference and IP information? Let's say your data network and your chain. I want to say any kind of stress test at all that would you would see as something that may be a problem for somebody in the future. I'm not asking really to show any kind of problems with yours, but what would be your advice for somebody who is trying to start somebody like something as ambitious as yours, which is quite a feat?
You mean stress in terms of the IT, or in terms of stress of doing it?
Of actually coming to this whole situation. Like if somebody thought about doing this, let's say a huge hospital chain, what kind of walls would they be coming up against, and what kind of IP laws and proprietary situations should they be scared of in these situations?
Yeah, don't be scared of it. I mean, in healthcare, there are a lot of regulations, and healthcare is a very conservative field. But as I always say, it's good that it is, because it's about people's lives. And you cannot do fancy new things because you have a great idea and then someone dies because it's just not working. Or a disease worsens because you think you do something very fancy and very new, but in the end, you just make mistakes. So of course, this conservative approach has to be taken, and people have to regard the regulators, of course, the laws that are mostly there to protect patients and to protect the science behind healthcare, right? So everything that you do has to be part of the classical healthcare. You just cannot go and say, I will reinvent the wheel. That's not how it works. You have to be interoperable with the existing systems. You have to regard the regulations. You have to be compliant to the existing things like HIPAA and stuff. It's nothing to fear. It's something to adapt to and maybe improve by working and proving that what you do is good, because that's how medicine also works, right? You try something, you do it on an evidence-based ground, and you work with colleagues and you find out, okay, what we do is much better than what we did in the past. And so you get these things as a part of this conventional business, right? So I wouldn't be afraid. I just would be motivated to say, let's work on it and let's see what works. I can tell you that we already treated patients in the metaverse with a big university hospital in Lausanne, and it took a lot of time. And end of August, it will be published on the European Congress for Cardiology in Barcelona, and one big cardiology publication will print our paper. And Ben and me, we're both doctors, so we are co-authors of this paper. And we do real medicine there, right? So we say, okay, look, we have the metaverse, but here we have the patient with that and that problem. And we could show together with cardiologists that this is working out well in the metaverse. And that's how you make the connection.
That's great. So what do you see? When does that paper come out again? Because I'm going to have to read it.
At the end of August, August 13th.
Okay. And what journal again? I'm sorry.
Canadian Journal for Cardiology.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. So what are the next steps? I saw your roadmap for AImedis, and it looks like we're kind of halfway there, but what do you think are the next steps that people can expect to see from AImedis that they may see coming out?
So next step will be, of course, bringing out the first public client so people can join Avalon and try it out themselves. At the moment, we're all working in a pilot phase. So we are trying out things with our existing partners. We are building experiences for big pharma companies, for hospitals, and we want to bring it to the real world now. And at the moment, we are growing very quickly. So we are onboarding a lot of partners. We're speaking to great partners in the industry from the United States too that support us. And so we just want to grow quickly. We want to establish a standard, but we're also very much focused on working with partners in terms of competitors, which we don't see as competitors, but as an opportunity to work, because that's what Web3 is all about. We don't want to build another silo, okay? We want to give people an open space that they can use to express their ideas and to build their healthcare solutions and improve healthcare as it is. And for that, we also cooperate with others. So that's what we are aiming for at the moment.
That's great. Building more silos is definitely, we don't want that. So did I miss anything in our conversation before I start to move on to the last part? Any conclusions that you'd like to talk about, Michael? Did I miss anything from our previous conversations?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right. I would like to thank Mr. Michael Kaldasch for speaking with us today. AImedis is something you can find online. The website is AImedis, AImedis, and go there, check it out, see what you think about the whole experience. It is something that you'll probably see a lot more in the future, I believe. And thank you very much, Michael. If you'd like to stick around for some questions, and that is the end of this recording today. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ryan. Thanks a lot.